them, but you got to figure out a way to stay a little bit closer in that category. So I give the Pacers more credit, I think, in this one than I give the Knicks to blame. Not that there is not plenty to evaluate from the Knicks in terms of how you can be better. And obviously the historic Game 1, you can certainly sit atop of that in terms of the things that you look at in terms of how we got here.
I say.
Well, before we get to Jay, just to crystallize Monica's points. Points off turnovers. The New York Knicks got outscored 34-13 in Game 6, 140 to 61 in the series. Fast break points. The New York Knicks got outscored 25-10 in Game 6, 106 to 48 in the series. The New York Knicks bench got outscored by Indiana's bench 210 to 117. And the Pacers reserves shot 51% from the field compared to 39% for the New York Knicks. I think just to be a little bit petty, Eminem and Jay and Molly, one of the things that really, really ticked me off, I was in a stupor to begin with as the game was ending, just sitting there watching it. But what really raked my nerves, that damn Landry Shamet hits 3 consecutive threes at the end when it means absolutely nothing. Absolutely, positively nothing. You understand the game is decided. The crowd is celebrating. You know the game is over. They're about to be outside on the street, partying their butt off. They're going back to the finals for the first time in 25 years. And this dude waits until like the last minute of the 2 minutes of the game to hit back-to-back-to-back threes. I almost threw something at my TV, and y'all know me enough to know that my TV's pretty big and pretty fly, pretty expensive. I almost broke it because I was really ticked off that happened. I'm like, now you going to hit those shots. Ooh, it ticked me off, but that's just me being petty.
I get it.
Jay, good morning. Welcome to the show.
Good morning.
What do you want to add here?
No pocket handkerchief today, Molly. So just want to.
That was hilarious, y'all.
By the way,
no piece of paper. No piece of paper.
You don't love that moment, Jay.
If you would like to call me out,
You're a man of the people.
Molly did, yes.
Jay's a man of the people.
I made you relatable, Jay, okay? You're not so bougie anymore. I was doing you a favor. Go ahead.
You know how many people in America are going to imitate that, by the way? You know how many people in America are going to imitate that, by the way? They're going to go to no store, no department store and buy a pocket square. They're going to go to a printer and print it out and imitate Jay Williams. He's going to start a new damn trend. Y'all mark my words.
I say, let's just start this whole co. Let's just go on that together. We can split that equity. I'm with you.
This dude always looking for a side hustle. You looked clean regardless, Jay. You are unbelievable. Go ahead.
Thanks, Molly. S.A., I've been waiting all weekend to talk to you about this, and Eminem, you too. Let's just call it what it is. I don't feel like you could win playing 1990s basketball in a 2025 league versus an Indiana team that is built upon pace, spacing, and versatility. When I watch Tibbs, I feel like he is elite at coaching effort and grit. And then when I watch Carlisle, I feel like he is great at tempo and geometry. And it feels as if this style of basketball in which Tibbs plays, if you don't have the perfect personnel for how you want to defend, how you want to play offense, I'm watching a more evolutionized style of basketball that the NBA has kind of grown through strategy-wise over the years. If you want to take that next iteration, and I know personnel is not the same of Golden State and where the league is going. And I like the disruptive nature of how the Knicks play, but it just feels like this style felt inevitable against the style of the Knicks, where everybody at times just sat and watched Jalen Brunson. And I'm not saying that it couldn't be efficient, but it felt like the two contrasts, that one was old and one was new and upcoming. And the new upcoming style is the one that's going to be here for a long time. And I don't feel like Tibbs' style is the one that's going to get you over the hump with this type of personnel.
Go ahead, Eminem.
Jay, you know, we've been having this conversation all morning. I think it is fair to be constructively critical of what the Knicks have done. I think that's a fair point and a legitimate concern. Some of the wrinkles that you saw by the time you got to the Pacers series, the few times you saw Jalen Brunson getting off the ball, some of the times when Mikal Bridges was bringing the ball up, like you saw these small wrinkles that you had not seen consistently. And I think, Jay, and you would know this better, part of what I think the experience is the difference between regular season basketball and playoff basketball. Because largely, 51 games on the regular season, a 2 seed, it was successful until it wasn't. But I do think that criticism is fair. I think the criticism of preparing guys off of the bench to be impactful sooner is also fair, especially when you talk about the sustainability. But I also think, I remember, and S.A., I'm sure you remember, Jay, you remember too, the trade goes down for Karl-Anthony Towns, and folks that are our colleagues and teammates are like, and I think it was fair, this could be one of the best starting fives in the Eastern Conference. And so to a degree, matchups or styles make fights. You ran into a bad matchup, and I will say as a collective, I don't know that that starting five played its best basketball from what we've seen during the regular season because it was a team that was predicated on being a high-powered and efficient offense. It was never really this defensively stout unit.
All right, we'll lock in the starting five in just a little bit, Stephen A., but I'm going to push it forward here because we got some other angles we need to hit. So I'll come to you with this. So obviously with the Knicks season coming to an end, head coach Tom Thibodeau was asked about what message he has for the team after the loss. I want you guys to listen to this sound.
And there's disappointment because you fall short of what your goal is, right? And there's, in the end, there's only going to be one team that achieves the goal. And so I think the challenge for us is to look at it for what it is. And it's, you know, we finished in the top three, but we're falling short of the ultimate goal. It's improvement from last year, but it's ultimately not what our ultimate goal is.
All right, Stephen A., we all expected it to be Cleveland and Boston in the Eastern Conference Finals, right? So with that in the back of your mind, do you think the Knicks over or underachieved this year?
Well, I think they overachieved. I think that when you get to within 2 games of an NBA Finals, they overachieved because even though we walked into this season before a game was played anticipating that they had one of the best starting fives, and as a result, they would be in the conference finals. As the season went on, pretty early in the season when we saw Cleveland start off with 15-0, we saw Boston and Cleveland on a collision course. And then over the course of the regular season, we saw the New York Knicks against Cleveland, against Boston, and against Oklahoma City literally go 0-10, winless in 10 encounters against the 3 top teams in the NBA. And so as the postseason approached and we recognized the fact that Cleveland was going to be a clear #1 seed and Boston would be a #2 seed, it was a foregone conclusion in all of our eyes that the New York Knicks was going home in the second round again, just like they did last year. Matter of fact, it was going to be worse because they wouldn't take the Boston Celtics past 5 games. And then the series started, and we saw the Knicks steal not just game 1, but game 2 in Boston. We said, wait a damn minute. They actually can win this series. And they ended up winning. So based on that premise that the reigning defending NBA champions with a #2 seed in the NBA, and #2 seed in the Eastern Conference, and they had home court advantage, and the New York Knicks knocked them off. I think some of the luster was taken off of it because we saw Jason Tatum go down in game 4. Boston win game 5 without him and then come back and get obliterated by the Knicks in game 6. But what we're forgetting is that same game that Jason Tatum went down, it was a little under 3 minutes left, if I remember correctly, and the New York Knicks were en route to going up 3-1 on a Boston Celtics team. Although Porzingis was compromised, they were still loaded enough with their 200 $300 million superstars to believe that the New York Knicks were pulling off something special by beating them. And so because of that reality, I would look at the New York Knicks and say we didn't expect them to be in the conference finals because we didn't expect them to get past Boston, but they did that. The problem is that they ended up losing to the same team this year that they lost to last year. And this year they were supposed to be better, and they weren't. So in the end, against Indiana, that is. And so we look at it from that standpoint, and that takes some of the luster off of it. But I still say when you come within 2 games of an NBA Finals, nobody anticipated that once we knew that they were going to run into Boston in the postseason. And that's why I say they overachieved.